Hey everyone. As it turns out, Ethan and I had a little bit more to say about the J.R. Shoemaker case after we stopped recording. So I wanted to put in this little bonus episode for you in which we talk about theories, we answer questions, and just generally dive a little bit deeper into the case. If you haven't listened to our premiere episode, the case of Victor J.R. Shoemaker Jr., don't listen to this yet because it won't make any sense. So go back and listen to episode 1. And we will be right back here next Wednesday with a brand new episode.
Wow, I mean, what, you and I have been married for almost 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I don't talk about it. And what would be interesting, I'd be interested for my sister to listen to this because I don't know if she remembers this at all. She actually doesn't remember her childhood period.
I was just going to say, she probably doesn't remember much about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if she even remembers this happening.
Wow. I mean, just the level of I don't want to say trauma, and I certainly don't want to make this about you.
No, this is not about me.
But yeah, no wonder that's stuck with you.
Yeah,
for all these years.
Well, and what's weird is, and again, it's not like, and that's when my true crime obsession
right.
was born. It wasn't like that because I legitimately remember being 5 years old and watching America's Most Wanted. Like, it was my favorite show.
Well, mine was Unsolved Mysteries, but
yeah, I like that one too.
Same.
But no, because I remember in the 80s, America's Most Wanted, the 800, it was the year, right? And so it was like 1-800 crime 88, and they would just change the number every year. And then I guess when it got to the 90s, they stopped doing. I don't know what it was. Like maybe Crime 90 or whatever was taken, and so it became 1-800 Crime TV.
Oh, right.
But anyway, yeah. So I always watched it, and then to see somebody from your neighborhood on it.
Yeah, that's got to be super impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite something, and honestly, it was a big. This and the next episode are the two cases that just keep bouncing around my head, and the next episode is a much more recent case. Mm-hmm. And I have this isn't a whole thing about, like, again, it's not about me. I don't have any connection to that case. This is hopefully the only one that we're going to cover that, I knew anybody involved in.
Right.
But yeah, these two just kept on bouncing around my head, and I just always think about them, and it's why I wanted to do this.
So do you think that they're still in that apartment?
Well, yeah, so I think they probably are. I mean, I would imagine he retired. So Nettie, I mentioned, had trouble conceiving, and so they were older parents. So when Victor went missing, Victor Sr. was in his, like, mid-40s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he's in his late 60s now. Yeah. So I'm sure he retired at some point, but I think they do still live there. I mean, the AP article was from 2014, and they were still there in 2014, 20 years after JR disappeared. And, I can't imagine that they've moved in the last 5 years.
Right, yeah. How old would JR be now?
He would be 31 years old. One thing that I couldn't fit in is that the FBI did receive a tip about a blue pickup truck in the area the day that JR disappeared, and they wanted to talk to the person who is driving this blue pickup truck. But from everything that I found, nothing ever came of that tip.
Right. Well, that's a pretty generic thing,
Yeah, right? Like, how many blue pickup trucks must there have been in
West Virginia in 1994? Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that never went anywhere. But that's the only tip that was mentioned after the FBI got involved. So again, like, the FBI, had some belief that that this was a kidnapping, but nothing ever came of it.
Well, so just for my own edification, what part of West Virginia are we talking about? Are we talking about the bigger part?
Oh, so you're saying it's if there was a kidnapping that it would be very quick and easy to cross state lines,
Yes.
and that's
yes,
okay.
And that's probably the justification that the FBI used to get involved.
Right.
That if this was a potential kidnapping,
then chances are
it's they either took them to Maryland, Pennsylvania, or even back into Virginia.
Yeah.
Because that is it's a narrow strip of state.
Yeah, and so some of the articles that I read too, the sentiment of the people who live nearby was really interesting to me because, of course, everybody got super involved in the search effort. Mm-hmm. And, it's like the whole county, like we said, it seems like every single person was trying to find this little boy. But then as time went on and he wasn't found, it kind of switched and they started to get suspicious of the family. Oh. And so the issue is that, not too long after J.R. went missing was the Susan Smith case. And Susan Smith was the mom down in like North Carolina, maybe South Carolina, who said that a black man had carjacked her with her children in the back seat. And then, there was a manhunt for this guy, and it turned out that she strapped them in and drowned them.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, yeah. Yes. Right. That obviously took the focus off of this case.
Right. Well, and again, and that one was huge. Like, that was the biggest thing in the world. And this one didn't really, other than the short segment on America's Most Wanted, this one didn't really get national attention. Mm-hmm. But the point is that the Susan Smith case, it was like, oh my gosh, my babies are gone. This man took them, and then it was her. And I think that started to make people, suspicious around this case, thinking, oh, well, maybe it was the family that did something to him.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's pretty typical, to be suspicious of the people that are closest.
Well, sure, yeah, and that's why everybody was interviewed by police.
Yeah, right.
All the adults and the children who were around. But again, I'm sorry, like I certainly don't for a second believe that the parents had anything to do with it.
It doesn't seem like it, no.
You don't keep
the apartment waiting for him to return with unopened Christmas presents.
Yeah.
If you knew that you had something to do with it.
Yeah.
That's a typical behavior of people that are not letting go.
Yeah.
Of the past and hoping.
Right. And it broke my heart when when Victor told the Associated Press that, he believes that JR could still be out there somewhere.
Right.
And, maybe he is, because again, we have no idea.
Right.
There has never been a single shred of physical evidence that indicates what happened to JR. And so at this point, the only thing that I think could provide answers would be if maybe the cousins did know more than they let on, which again, there's no indication that they do.
Right. Yeah. So, I certainly wouldn't want to implicate anybody or to accuse anybody.
Right.
But if they did know even something, like maybe they were out playing and, he fell into an open well, an abandoned mine shaft, something like that.
Even that, I can imagine an 8 and a 9-year-old not wanting to say that. But, these people are our age now.
Right.
A few years younger, but they're in their 30s. And I cannot imagine that if some terrible accident happened, that they wouldn't give their family members this closure, that they would just let them wonder what happened for 25 years.
Especially if it was just an accident.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, again, I mean, I don't think an 8 and a 9-year-old purposely harmed this little boy. And even if they did, realistically, like, they can't make somebody disappear.
Right.
They're 8 and 9.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got 2 11-year-olds who can, like, barely bathe themselves. They're not going to make an entire child disappear with no trace.
Yeah.
Victor Dwight J.R. Shoemaker Jr. has been missing since May 1st, 1994. He would be 31 years old today. If you have any information at all about JR's whereabouts, please contact West Virginia State Police at 304-822-3561 or the FBI at 202-324-3000. You can see all of the sources for this episode in our show notes and on our website, andthentheyweregone.com. We'll also have age-progressed photos of JR.
And be sure to follow us on social, and then they were gone pod on Facebook, and at ATTWG pod on Instagram and Twitter.
We'll see you here next week for a brand new episode.
See you next week.
And Then They Were Gone is hosted by Kona Gallagher and Ethan Flick. All writing, research, and editing is done by Kona Gallagher. Theme music is The Stork by Ketsa, and additional music is provided by Kai Engel. And Then They Were Gone is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!